Love it or hate it, the Tube remains one of the few places in the capital where you can't get signal on your phone, but that is about to change. London will get full 4G coverage in all Tube stations by the end of 2024. Our political correspondent Simon Harris reports.
For many of us, the mobile is an indispensable life support machine, even when we're not connected. On Tube platforms, Londoners have the option of Wi-Fi. And now this Victorian railway network is to truly enter the 21st century. 4G phone coverage will be made available, not just in stations, but on trains.
Specifically as a young woman, when I'm travelling back at home late at night, being able to have access to be able to make a call if I feel uncomfortable means everything to me.
For example, I want to call my boss that I'm going to be late for work. Without the Wi-Fi, no signal on the Tube. You know what I mean? Like, I cannot update him on what's happening.
I think it's quite useful because you find quite boring sometimes just waiting for the train or being on the train.
To make it a reality, Transport for London has awarded a 20-year concession to an Australian telecoms firm. Londoners have had to wait a long time for this. The technology to allow mobile phone calls on Tube trains was first promised 15 years ago, but it never happened. Other cities haven't been so slow. There's already 4G on the subway in Moscow, New York, Seoul and Tokyo. The company installing the system on the Tube wants London to catch up.
As a true global city, it is the last greenfield place of its type where a network of this type is actually going to get deployed. So, for example, in Hong Kong, their network is 22 years old. It's on their 4th generation upgrade.
And for the Mayor, there's an added bonus. The deal to install 4G will generate much-needed cash and might entice passengers back onto the Underground.
At the moment, we've got, roughly speaking, 45% of Tube users versus pre-pandemic. So we want to encourage people back to the Tube and to our buses. One way of doing so is to give them this offer of brilliant internet connection, brilliant phone connection across the Tube.
The project is challenging. Narrow Tube tunnels don't leave much room for cables. The engineers can only work at night when the Underground stops running. On part of the Jubilee line, where 4G has been trialled since last March, passengers were quick to take advantage of the uninterrupted mobile coverage. The rest of the Tube should be online within 3 years. Simon Harris, ITV News.
Good evening. Ministers have been in talks all afternoon trying to figure out a plan that could finally give us a clearer idea of where we stand regarding summer holidays. There were hints from the Prime Minister earlier that the rules about quarantining when you get back could be lifted for those who've had both vaccinations. And at one of the capital's busiest airports for tourists, it can't come soon enough. Our political correspondent Simon Harris has been at Southend Airport, where just 2 flights took off today.
The travel trade is in a bad place. At Southend Airport, a solitary passenger jet is parked on a stand. Inside the terminal, there are no staff on duty because there are no passengers to check in. Nowhere is the slump in business caused by COVID more keenly felt than here. In 2019, Southend had its busiest ever year, with more than 30 holiday flights leaving every day. Today, there are just 2. One to Portugal, one to Greece. For passengers arriving from Corfu today, quarantine was compulsory.
It is frustrating because I was back home, free, and now I have to be in my room for 10 days in a row.
In nearby Leigh-on-Sea, Vanessa is worried she and her husband will have to cancel their delayed honeymoon.
We're all set to go. I can't see if we've had the inoculations why we can't go. It doesn't seem right to me. We've followed every guideline the government's laid down, so what's the point of having the inoculations and then they'd be told we can't do this and we can't do that and we can't do anything else? It's just wrong.
But during a visit to the army in Aldershot, the Prime Minister gave a strong hint that the rules might be about to change.
I think that the real opportunity we all have now is to open up travel through the double jab. And if you look at it, we've got more than 60% of our population have now had 2 jabs. I think 83% or something have had 1 jab. We're really getting through it now.
The unanswered question is when. For the boss of Southend Airport, it's not soon enough.
We're already, to all intents and purposes, at the end of June. So if we continue to prolong this, given that the airlines, broadly speaking, need 2 to 3 months of sort of lead time to sell their seats, we're going to risk losing 2 summers. Losing 1 summer is careless, and losing 2 summers is potentially extraordinarily serious.
With much of the airline industry effectively in hibernation, Southend has instead become a haven for light aeroplanes and even seagulls. Simon Harris, ITV News, Southend.